death. We just knowed it was going to. If it had, we didn't have a chance to get down.
Yeah, that's scary.
As far as you can see was boats anyway, when we first left the Philippine Islands. So I was telling them about it, and I was telling them that was the first part of October 1945, when we was going up to occupy Japan, and Michael found it on the computer.
Oh, wow.
He said, "Do you know what the name of that typhoon was?" I said, "No, I never had heard it." And what was it, Tony? Tony looked it up too.
Typhoon Louise.
So you were in the middle of Typhoon Louise when you were going to Japan.
Typhoon. Boy, that's something you don't want to be in.
Did it make you seasick?
Lord, I was seasick. Oh, God. It threw me out of the bunk. I was on a bunk, one of those double beds. And I was up on top. And it threw me out in the floor, and I was running for the top of the ship. And I was halfway up the stairs, but there wasn't no way to get out. We was locked in.
Oh, gosh.
And so that's when I come to myself, really. And but it scared me real bad. It took 19 days for us to get up there, but I was sick, yeah, but real sick. But most of that 19 days, I don't remember how long that typhoon lasted, probably 2 or 3 days. And I had a buddy from Bremen, Georgia, Harold Hutchison. He was assigned to the same outfit I was, and he could go through the chow line. It didn't bother him. He didn't get seasick.
Yeah.
And I was laying down in the hole on one of our trucks, and he'd bring my food to me. And as long as he done that, I began feeling some better. You know, I just laid still. He'd bring my food to me, Harold would. For 19 days he did.
Well, I'm glad you had a buddy to help you.
Yeah, I mean, that really helped me too. See, I couldn't sweat the lines out. There wasn't no way I was sick. When you get seasick or sick in a car, Tony knows, there ain't nothing you can do. You sleep, you can't even stand up.
Yeah, I
You
luckily
wanna lay
didn't get
down.
that gene.
Yeah, and that's what I did.
Well, what about some good stories?
And Harold, what?
What about some fun stories once you got to Japan?
What did I do?
Yeah, do you have any fun stories about being in Japan?
Oh, yeah, but what I was going to tell you.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
We went in at Nagoya, then 19 days. It took from the Philippines 1,040 miles from the Philippine island, not Amazon. Luzon is 1,040 miles. I forgot how I found that out. 1,040 miles to the islands of Japan. And Michael said they had 400 battleships, destroyers. The Americans did, in case the Japanese had refused us going into their isle, their home land. I reckon they're gonna blow them off the map. Had 400. Michael said 400 battleships.
Wow.
Or destroyers.
And those are huge.
Yeah.
Huge ships. I've seen a destroyer in real life. They're huge.
But anyway, we finally got 19 days to Nagoya, Japan. That's the 4th largest city in Japan.
Tell her why it took 19 days.
Huh?
Tell why it took 19 days to go from the Philippines.
Well, the LST, that's a small flat bottom boat. And the front end of them drops down, and you can drive all your equipment inside, all your trucks or whatever. And I was with the combat engineers, and my whole company was on that one ship. And That's the way a lot of them was, because the whole 8th Army went up there. We was the first troops in to Japan after World War II, and this was in October, and they surrendered about the last of August. About a month, been about a month, since they had surrendered.
Yeah.
Or a little over. But anyway, we went in at Nagoya, and we was walking down the streets of Nagoya, going to where we was going to put our tent. We took our tents with us from Luzon, and that's what we slept in there, Belady Pass, where they'd had a big battle, killed several thousand American soldiers. But anyway, we went in, and I remember we was walking down the street going to the outskirts of Nagoya, and the Japanese was meeting us. We was meeting some of them, and they was bowing. Like that, and saying, "Ohio, Ohio." Sound like that's what they're saying. I said, "Good night, I ain't no Ohio, am I? I've been on that ship 19 days. Surely ain't no Ohio." I didn't know what it meant.
Yeah.
But I found out later it meant good morning. They were saying good morning.
Uh-huh.
That was good morning in the Japanese language. Sound like they're saying Ohio, Ohio. But that's the way it sounded to me. But anyway, it's just, I enjoyed, after I got there and got over the seasickness and all that, I enjoyed being there, but I was in the Philippines. It was warm weather in the Philippines. We got up to Japan, it was big frosty mornings, just like we had here. And it got cold, and we had summer uniforms.
Oh, no.
And boy, we in them tents we'd put up, it was slept in, we'd get cold, and I'd put on we just had summer clothes, but I'd put on 2 outfits when I'd go to sleep of a night in the bunk, try to stay warm. And finally they issued us winter clothes. See, we went up there, and it's cold there in Nagoya, just like it gets here in the fall of the year. It starts frosting.
Yeah.
That's the way it was there, and the weather-wise. We stayed there in tents, and there's one boy, he built up some kind of a fire in a pretty good sized tin can, and it killed him that night. He was with the 186.
Oh, what
In
happened?
a different tent than I was in. It had about 20 men to the tent, something like that. But it killed him, that carbon monoxide.
Oh, no.
It put out carbon monoxide, and he died from it.
Oh,
Just trying to
gosh.
stay warm with it, I reckon. And he breathed enough air that it killed him.
That's sad.
But we lived there in them tents about 6 weeks, I guess. We got winter, they sent us winter uniforms, and that really made a difference.
Yeah,
And
I'm sure.
And then we went to Curie, Japan, from Nagoya, and we rode a train. They put us on a train, and there wasn't room for all of us to sit down on that, in them passenger cars on that train. And I remember I stood up, and I went to sleep standing up. About 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. We finally got to Curie, and we slept in barracks there. That was a naval base. It was right on the ocean, Curie, Japan. And that was a naval base. And I got a job on regular guard duty there at Curie. Well, and I was still with the same outfit I was with in Philippines with the 186 Combat Engineer. And then in January, we stayed there. We left there in January of 1946, and the 186 Combat Engineers disbanded. They did that after World War II. There's a lot of companies disbanded. The 186 Combat Engineers disbanded, and they sent me to Kobe, Japan, which that was about one of the largest cities in Japan. And I rode a train. We went by Nagasaki.
Mm-hmm.
No, not Nagasaki. Where they dropped that second atomic bomb. Nagoya?
Hiroshima.
Hero.
Hiroshima.
No, that's the first one.
Well, yeah, and Nagasaki then.
Nagasaki?
Yeah.
Yeah, Nagasaki, where they dropped the second one. We stopped, the train stopped there. And it tore that city all to pieces.
Yeah.
The atomic bomb. That was the second bomb they dropped
Uh-huh.
on Japan, and they surrendered
Yeah.
after that, you know.
Uh-huh.
But anyway, they sent me to Kobe. They left 4 or 5 soldiers behind to clean up the place, and I was one of them.
Oh, wow.
And the rest of them left the day before. And there wasn't nobody there but 4 or 5 of us. And all them Japanese around, that's kind of scary.
Yeah.
thing. They could have killed us. We never would have known. They never would have known who done it. But anyway, we got on a train next day and we went to to Kobe. I'm getting mixed up. Went to Kobe, and they put me with the 1874th Aviation Engineers in Kobe.
Uh-huh.
See, because the 186 disbanded.
Uh-huh.
And I stayed at Kobe about 3 months, I guess, something like that. And I was pulling steady KP there
Mm-hmm.
on one day and off 2, I think. That's the reason I took the job.
Hey,
Yeah.
tell me that story from when you saw that guy in that tent at
Well-
night. Remember when you woke up at night and you saw that guy in your tent?
Oh, that was in the Philippines.
Yeah, tell me
See,
that
when
story.
we went in the Philippines, the war had just ended, and it was full of Japanese soldiers.
Uh-huh.
That was a dangerous thing. We got on a train after we got off that boat. We was on it 20-something days,
Uh-huh.
and we got on a train about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and we stayed on that train till 1 o'clock in the morning. We wound up at Angeles, Luzon. That was the name of the town
Uh-huh.
we wound up at. They stopped at every little pig trail, that train did. And we had to walk about a mile to the 4th replacement depot. And we slept in tents. There's 25 men to the tent. And like I told you, the Japanese soldiers was all over the place. You could hear their guns firing at night
Mm-hmm.
from that area, from the 4th replacement depot. And you could hear them, and that's where they was slipping in the tents and was knifing soldiers and running out. See, they'd knife them right at the out where they could get right out of the tent
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the tent.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sleeping at the end of the tent.
Uh-huh.
And I just happened to wake up about 1 o'clock, and that guy was as close to me as that pole. Right close to me was right there. That pole, that right there.
Mm-hmm.
And I had my rifle. We slept with our M1 rifle, and I raised up like that and started shooting. I couldn't tell. It's dark. I couldn't tell whether he was a Japanese, but he was. He was a smaller guy than most of the Americans were,
Mm-hmm.
and they was all smaller than we were anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Them Japanese were. but I didn't shoot him. But I woke up 3 or 4 guys, and they said, "Well, why didn't you shoot him?" I did almost.
Yeah.
I had them M1s had to blow the hole in him that big around.
Yeah.
Because them 30 calibers,
Mm-hmm.
them things were powerful. Them M1 rifles.
Mm-hmm.
They claimed they'd shoot through 4 inches of steel, but I never did see that.
Yeah.
But I heard others say they would. And they may have. I don't know. That's powerful. But anyway, I didn't shoot him. And boy, he turned and run out the other end of the tent.
Wow, that's scary.
I didn't shoot him. But anyway, that was 4th Replacement Depot. That was the place where all the recruits went to be assigned to different outfits in the Philippine Islands.
Mm-hmm.
And we got assigned Harold Hutchinson. We got assigned alphabetically to different outfits. And Harold Hutchinson lived at Bremen, Georgia. And I was from Georgia, and me and him got assigned to the same outfit, which was 186 Combat Engineers at Belady Pass in the mountains, like. It's a mountainous area.
Mm-hmm.
That's still on Luzon. And Luzon is the largest island in the Philippines. That's where we was stationed at, on Luzon. And where they sent us to, they killed about, I don't know, 6,000 or 7,000 American soldiers. They had a big battle there. And that's where James Dalton got killed. They was erecting a monument for him.
Mm-hmm.
He was a brigadier general, 2-star general, and he was a West Point graduate. And Sandra, she ran up on the computer. And
No, I did that. Remember?
And Tony did too.
I'd always heard that story.
Yeah.
And Daddy said his name was Dalton, a General Dalton, and Daddy remembered the name because of Dalton.
Yeah.
So I looked up General Dalton, World War II, and he came right up. He died at that battle, the Belady Pass.
Yeah, Belady Pass.
In Luzon,
that's where I was
Philippines.
stationed at.
It was a tremendous battle. There's like about 6,000 or 8,000 Americans and about 14,000 or 15,000.
There's a bunch. They killed a bunch of them in it.
Japanese
I went up
died.
through there after that battle.
But his memory was right on spot point on. I mean, you can look it up now. He was one of the generals that died.
He was a brigadier general, 2-star general, and he graduated in 1935, and this was 45, and he'd already made a brigadier general.
Wow.
West Point graduate.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a smart man, and you know, that was horrible. That Japanese sniper shot him right at Lady Pass.
Well, not many generals die in
I know
combat.
they would. You know how many generals there were in World War II?
I looked that up the other day.
1,100.
There's a bunch of them.
1,100 generals.
Something like that. I don't know if there's that many, but I
Yeah,
looked
you
it
did.
up. Because I didn't know that they had that many generals.
I didn't either.
You know, you think about a general, you think, well, they're just one of them. But no, there's a lot more than just one.
But anyway, what I was going to tell you, I went up, me and 3 or 4 other guys, we drove an Army vehicle. It's just a windy dirt road, went up. The mountains wasn't large like Fort Mountain. They were smaller mountains, but there's mountains.
Uh-huh.
And it was, I don't know, 3 or 4 miles from the base of it up to where where that general got shot at Belady Pass.
Uh-huh.
And they was legs, and you can see a leg where they'd been blowed off from the knee down, still had the combat boots on, and the sock would still be on them. But the meat and everything, it wasn't nothing there but the bone and the sock and the combat boot. They just
Wow.
had a lot of stuff like that just scattered around.
Mm-hmm.
And the slit trenches. And they had all kinds of cans, like sea rations was in and stuff, where the soldiers had been eating stuff. They had all that laying around too. That's a big area all the way up through there.
Yeah.
And the trees were shot full of holes.
Mm-hmm.
And the Japanese, the Americans, I talked to them boys that were the 186
Mm-hmm.
that was there when that battle was going on. And they hauled our soldiers out. They loaded them on the big tandem wheel trucks like cordwood. You know, I hauled cordwood years ago. You lay it down just like that, you know,
Uh-huh.
all the way down the bed of the truck. That's the way they loaded them soldiers that got
Wow.
killed.
Mm.
And there's thousands of them that got killed. But they claim they killed more Japanese than the Americans got killed.
Mm.
But they didn't haul their dead out like we did.
Mm.
Them boys that was with the 186 that was there, they said they'd take their bulldozers and push them over the bluffs and cover them up.
Mm.
That's the way they buried the Japanese
Oh, wow.
there at the Lady Pass. You can find that on your computer. Tony found it. I was telling him about being there,
Mm-hmm.
and I still remember a lot of that stuff. And I was just 18, barely 19 at that time.
Yeah.
I just had my 19th birthday.
Mm-hmm.
And I remembered.
That's 80 years ago.
I remember a lot of that stuff, still do. I still
That was
remember
80 years ago.
I know. Is it vivid?
a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't believe it. Well, I reckon I just thank God that I can.
Me
still
too.
remember. But I get messed up a little bit now, sometimes. But I'm telling the truth about it. And what happened. And so then the Japanese was still all over that island. And they began gathering them up and sending them back to Japan, and the ones that was able to go, I guess. There was a lot of them in there. And then we slept in tents, and also we had to sleep under mosquito nets
Mm-hmm.
because there's a lot of mosquitoes, and they didn't want you getting malarial fever.
Mm-hmm.
And they'd give us the medic would stand at the head of the chow line when we was going in to eat with Atabrain tablets. And he made sure that we took them. And there's pretty good sized tablets, some of them. And I couldn't hardly swallow it. I never had tuck-in tablets.
I looked that up too. Atabrain.
Atabrain tablets is what he gave each soldier. And some of them still
You can
took.
find anything on the internet, you know. But
Some of them still took malarial fever.
Mm-hmm.
We slept under mosquito nets of the night. And then they decided, well, I don't know what they decided. President MacArthur, he was our general. He's a 5-star general. And after the Japanese surrendered, he went to Tokyo, you know. And he had an office in Tokyo. I seen his office there in Tokyo.
did you ever see him?
Yeah, I seen him going into his office with about 3 or 4 of his staff members.
Yeah.
There's a following him into the office. And he was there in Tokyo, and there was a pond in front of the building. It looked like it's made out of marble. It's a beautiful building
Mm-hmm.
in Tokyo.
Well, you saw Japan. It's pretty good.
Yeah, Japan's gorgeous.
Huh?
Japan's gorgeous. I loved it when I went earlier this year.
Yeah.
You seen Buddhas over there?
Yeah, oh yeah. I saw the giant Buddha.
See, I went up to Tokyo. When I was in Kyoto, I'd been there about 6 months, and that I stayed longer there in any city I was in Japan. And they decided I needed a vacation. I was with a headquarters company, engineers, then in Kyoto.
They thought you was working too hard, didn't they?
Yeah, I was working, yeah. And so they sent me and 3 or 4 other soldiers. We went down to the Grand Kyoto train station, got on one of them electric trains and went to Atami, Japan. And that was a beautiful place. Had a golf course, a big swimming pool.
Ooh.
We stayed there a week, and they said to us one day, would any of you boys, any of you soldiers, there's a lot of soldiers there. I didn't know none of them, but the ones that was with my company, about 3 or 4 of us. And they said, we've got a bus going to Tokyo in the morning. If you wanna go to Tokyo, it's 25 miles. I said, well, how far? They said 25 miles from Atami, Japan to Tokyo. So we went to Tokyo and stayed that day, stayed that night, and we come back the next day in the afternoon.
Did you ever see any geisha girls?
Oh, yeah, I seen a few of them.
Did you go dancing?
Oh, yeah, I went to that Grand Kyoto Cabaret. Boy, it was a nice one, I mean. See, Kyoto had never been bombed. All the other cities in Japan had. It was a resort town.
Uh-huh.
Kyoto. It's a beautiful place, really.
Mm-hmm.
They had the Grand Kyoto Cabaret and the Higashiyama Cabaret. They had that crystal ball in the center.
Uh-huh.
They had tables all the way around, big area. Had about 25, 30-piece orchestra playing all American music.
Oh.
So, yeah. Had dance girls, and you had to buy dance tickets before you went in. They had a place on the outside, kind of like where they used to sell show tickets to go into a show theater here. That's where you bought the tickets. Then you could go in, and dance with there's a lot of dance girls there. You'd go in and dance with the girls to the American music. And that's what I liked at American. Boy, they was good at it. I couldn't believe how good they could play them instruments.
Oh, yeah.
And I could never play one.
It was Japanese band?
Yeah, Japanese are playing. Oh, they had all kinds, just like a big orchestra here, like Tommy Dorsey would have.
But they were singing American songs?
Yeah, they'd sing and dance too. I mean, play. The music sounded real good. And they had that was closer, the Higashiyama Cabaret there in Kyoto. And the Grand Kyoto, they had 2 of them there in Kyoto that played. And Higashiyama had about a 25, 30-piece band. Had a big stage up there. And had that crystal ball in the center.
Uh-huh.
It'd turn, and make lights. Had tables all the way around where you could sit and dance. Boy, there's a lot of soldiers there. It's full of soldiers.
Uh-huh.
They had a real large skating rink in Kyoto.
Uh-huh.
And I learned how to skate. I bet I fell about 40 times I was young before I finally learned how. But they had a big skating rink there. It's just a beautiful place, really.
Oh yeah.
Kyoto was.
Uh-huh.
Well, now, them other cities, Kobe was a beautiful place.
Mm-hmm.
It had a mountain on on the west side, and you'd go up out, we'd go up out on that mountain. You could see all over Kobe. It's a large city, but had been bombed and had them high-rise buildings, and the walls was all standing. They gated them from the top all the way down, but the walls, a lot of the walls would still be standing. They bombed real bad, all them cities. But that's been so long ago, I forgot a lot of it.
Oh, you can. Your memory's great.
Yeah, but you forget a lot of it.
Any other memories from then? Even basic training? Anything you want to share?
What? Tell me, son, what?
What?
Anything else you want to share?
Oh,
Anything else? Any other stories you got?
oh. Well, they may be, but
Just asking the question.
yeah. There goes somebody.
That's Shannon.
That's Shannon.
Yeah. Tell me about when you got drafted.
When I got drafted.
Yeah, what that was like and going to basic training and everything.
Oh, well, I lived at Eton, and I thought I'd never get 18. From 17 to 18, I thought that was the longest year. And Daddy, I said, I'm afraid World War II is going to be over before I get in there. There's a drafting them at 18. There was drafting them at 21 to 44. And I think President Roosevelt cut it back. They needed men. Got to needing them, I think, pretty bad, and they cut it down to 18.
Well, they drafted your daddy too, didn't they?
Yeah, they called him.
Tell that story.
Well, Daddy, they called him in for examination. See, he is 19 years older than me. And I was already in the Army, and they called him in for examination. They had to go to Atlanta.
He's just like 37.
Fort McPherson. And see, they was drafting them from 18 to 44 or 45, something like that.
What about that?
I didn't realize that. I don't think I ever heard that.
But Daddy, he had 7 kids, and they said, "No, we don't want you. You got too many kids." They put him in 4F. And Dooley Jackson over here had 15, 14, I think at that time. And they called him in too. He was younger than Daddy. No. Yeah, he might have been younger than Daddy. Daddy's 37 when they called him.
So you got drafted. Did you get a letter in the mail?
I got drafted. We lived at Eton when I got 18. When I got 18, I had to go to Chatsworth and fill out a long form, all kinds of questions, down at the draft board. Rachel Hustutler was the head of the draft board at Chatsworth in 1944. And I went to her office and had to fill out a big long form, all kinds of questions. The day that I was 18, I think, on my 18th birthday. And then, in about, I don't know how long, 2 or 3 weeks, they called me for examination. And they put us on, about 35 of us on a school bus down Chatsworth and sent us to Fort Sam Houston. No, not Fort Sam Houston. That's where I got discharged. No, what was the name of that?
In Montgomery?
In Atlanta, where we had to go. Anyway, it's the Army camp in Atlanta. They took us down there and examined us. And we stayed 2 or 3 days. We come back home, and and I had 6 brothers and sisters at home, and you know what, they was picking peas when I got back.
Oh.
I said, I'm not gonna pick no peas. They said, did you pass? I said, no, I didn't pass. They said, what? I said, I can't believe you didn't pass. And I had them going there for a while, and I said, well, yeah, I did pass. I passed. So, and I didn't get called there at Eton. Amos Keith, I'll tell her this, he had 2 cotton gins there in Eton. Amos Keith did. And of course I knowed him. I went to school with his son, Amos Keith Jr. We were in the same grade in high school. And he wanted me to drive his truck. He had a new Dodge, 2-ton Dodge truck. Wanted me to haul cottonseed to Cartersville for him. And I did. He had men working at both them cotton gins over at Eton. And they'd load the truck, and all I done was drive it. I'd walk over there and get the truck. We live right at Eton. I'd walk to the gin, get the truck, take it to Cartersville with a load of cottonseed, load up a load of cottonseed meal, cottonseed hulls, bring it back to Eton and unload it in his gin. And next morning the truck would be loaded, and I'd walk back over there and get it. And he paid me $6 a day. That's pretty good though back then. Them dollars went someplace.
You could buy a farm for that, couldn't you?
Almost.
Okay, so you got drafted. You passed the examination.
Yeah, and I got drafted, but Daddy wanted to keep me out. He said, son, I want to see if I can't get you deferred. I said, oh, no, Dad, don't do that. I said, I want to go to the Army. And he did, though, later. He went to Charlie Pennell over at Eton. He was a big-time lawyer, Charlie was. And he lived there in Eton. And Daddy went down there and had him draw up a bunch of papers about trying to get me out of the Army, and he sent them to me. I was over in basic training in Camp Blandon, Florida. He sent all them papers to me down there for me to give to my company commander and see if he'd let me out of the Army, see if he'd let me out. And I didn't never do it. But you know, I got thinking now, I wish I'd have kept them papers. I'd like this, but I throwed them away back then. I wish I'd have kept them because I'd like to know what all he wrote. I never did read it. Read them. There's several sheets of it that Charlie Pennell wrote. He later become a Supreme Court judge. He moved to Atlanta. Charlie did, and became a Supreme Court judge. And Luther Smith's daughter, she was a mess. She lived up at Fashion. And she said when he moved, said here at Eton, they called him Charlie Panel. They said when he became a Supreme Court judge, moved to Atlanta, they called him Charlie Pennell.
That's Charlie Panel.
Yeah, that was Luther Smith's daughter. Oh, she was a pistol herself. But anyway, Daddy tried to get, but I didn't use that. And then I hurt my leg. I had 12 weeks of training down there. I was in the heavy weapons company, infantry, and I had 12 weeks training, and I hurt my leg. And we was getting ready to go on 2 weeks bivouac. And I went to the company commander because those red streaks were running from that bruise on my leg. And I showed it to him, and he said, I better send you to the doctor. We didn't call it doctor, the medics.
Mm-hmm.
And he called a Jeep. A guy driving a Jeep come, and he took me to the medics. And he put me in the hospital. I was running a temperature, and I stayed in the hospital 10 days, and I had a carbuncle. It's caused from getting your leg bruised and the bone bruised, and it'll make it right, and it was a carbuncle. That's a bad thing on your carbuncle. I didn't know that was that bad. But anyway, they was giving me penicillin shots. And so I stayed 10 days, and my company was still out on bivouac. And I stayed in the barracks there by myself, I think, and went to other places to eat, to the PX or to the some other place there to eat. And when they come back, well, they put me in a rifle company in the 5th week of training. And I'd already had 12 weeks of infantry heavy weapons company training. They put me back in the 5th week, and so had to go 15 weeks to completed that training.
Mm-hmm.
Went 15 weeks, and they'd raised the time to be trained to 17 weeks. That's 2 more weeks. Then I had to take 2 more weeks training. After I took 12 weeks.
You was overtrained, weren't you?
Yeah, and so then they gave me a furlough. I took 6 months training down there, and I'd gained 40 pounds of weight. And they gave me, I got a furlough for 12 days, and went to Jacksonville, got on a train, rode it to Dalton, and it was 1 o'clock in the morning, and I got a taxi to take me to Eton, where we lived. He charged me $5, Dalton to Eton. I remember what he charged now. I remembered it. Never did forget it, really. I thought that was, I didn't know about the price. I thought it was all right. But anyway, stayed 12 days, and they sent me to Camp Shelby, Mississippi, for advanced training, because they passed a law not to send no more 18-year-old boys overseas. And I was still just 18.
Mm-hmm.
They sent me to Camp Shelby, stayed there 2 or 3 weeks, training, and they didn't want to train us no more there. I reckon they sent us to Camp Brooker, Alabama, for advanced training, more advanced training. And so didn't stay there too long, a couple of weeks, and they sent us down to Montgomery, Alabama. And we got on a troop train, and we went to Fort Ord, California, and it was a steam engine pulling us, and they'd pull us up every day at 12 o'clock. We'd unload the train completely, and whatever town was in, from here to California, we'd run through the town, and for exercise, I reckon. And we'd run through the town, and so it took about 6 days to get to Fort Ord, and at Fort Ord I had to do more advanced training.
More training.
More at Fort Ord, so it wound up, before I went overseas, I got about 9 months training. I knew how to fire every gun the infantry had. Except the artillery, we didn't deal with that. But with everything else we did, the mortars and the machine guns and all that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
I knowed how to tear them up, how to put them together. 9 months training, when you're 18, you learn a lot, I guess.
Yeah.
And so went to Fort Ord, We had to crawl under machine gun fire. And that always scared me, because you're crawling towards them machine guns, and they're only about, well, they told us 18 inches, but they're above our heads, but I think there's about 3 foot. But you're crawling right towards them through obstacle course with apron barbed wire, and they'd have logs out there, and they'd have duds, like a bomb would go off, but they had a little fence around it where you wouldn't crawl up on top of it. But you had steel helmets on, your rifle, and then a light field pack, and you had to keep your head down on the ground. And
did you ever get sand in your barrel?
oh Lord, yeah, and you'd have the first lieutenant up there when you got through the course. He'd check your rifle, see if it's in firing order, if you had any sand in it. So we was in Florida, we had to do that several times in Florida, and that scared me too. But the first lieutenant, he looked in mine, and they'd set a bomb off close to me and blowed sand 100 feet high. It fell down all over top of me. That sand. And had my rifle, pack on back, steel helmet. Got up there to where the machine guns was at, firing right towards you. And every fourth bullet was a tracer bullet. You could see it. And it looked like it was going to hit you right between the eyes if you was looking right towards you. And so he said, well, let me check your rifle. He told me, though, when I got up there one time, he said, you know you're lucky to be alive? He might have just been lying to me. I said, why? He said, when you crawled over them 3 logs out there, he said, they wouldn't have bullet missed your head 3 inches.
Whoa.
That's what he said. But I didn't know whether he was telling a lie or not, because I stayed as close as I could to them logs without raising it up. Because I know them bullets is coming over your head. But it's a wonder that hadn't. Well, I think there was some of them. Well, if you'd have crawled up on a snake and had jumped up real quick, it'd have been too bad.
Yeah.
But anyway, he said, he checked my rifle, see if there's any sand in the bore. And he looked at, you know how they check the rifle, they'd break them down, and they'd put their thumb where the bullet goes in to the barrel, their thumbnail, and they'd look through the barrel here with their one eye, and you could see all the way down through the barrel. If the sun was shining against your thumbnail, you could see all the way down. He said, yeah, I said, you got sand in the bore. He said, you're gonna have to pull KP Sunday. So I had to pull KP on Sunday. Kitchen police, you know what that is.
I don't know.
Kitchen police. I had to work in the mess hall where all the soldiers was eating, and had to wash dishes, peel taters. And there's a bunch of them, silverware. Yeah. But anyway, I had to pull KP on Sunday that time. But anyway, in California, they done the same way.
So you went to California after that?
Well, in California, it took us 6 days to get out there on that train, and it was Pullman cars, and we had black men on there to make up our beds and to bring our food to us and everything. It was a pretty good ride, really, and that train was going day and night. You could just hear that whistle blowing of the night, and then 2 of us would sleep in the seats we sat in on the train. They could make them down to a bed. They'd make them down to a bed, and there'd be 2 soldiers sleeping on each tent, on each bed, and they'd bring our food to us. And we'd eat back there where we was sitting in the car, and the kitchen cars would be maybe 2 or 3 cars up, you know, where the kitchen cars was at. And we got to Fort Ord, California, and we done. They said, well, we had I done about a month or so training in Fort Ord, and they even gave us prisoners of war to guard. We'd go by the prison camp, the soldiers would, and they'd give us 5 men from Germany that had POWs on their back.
Prisoners of war?
We'd take them, and they gave us a double-barrel sawed-off shotgun with buckshot. We carried that and had 5 men, the soldiers, each one had, and they'd pack our lunch and pack them a lunch just like they packed us one. And they was tickled to death to be a prisoner of war. They was really getting taken good care of.
Yeah.
Yeah, they weren't like our soldiers over in Japan or places like that. They starved them to death, a lot of them. And then they'd put them out, they'd starve them from water. And I've heard they'd put them out to drink water, and a lot of times they'd shoot them.
Oh, man.
After they try and drink water and then starve them to death.
Oh,
I've heard all kinds of stuff like that. But anyway, they gave us, I couldn't believe they'd do that, you know. But if they'd have tried to run, I didn't have a one that tried to escape or anything.
Oh, yeah.
Like I got thinking, they're as proud as soldiers.
Yeah.
I mean, proud as prisoners of war. And so then I was in training, and they decided we was going overseas, and I scheduled to hit the home island of Japan, and I didn't know it at the time, but found it out later in November. If we scheduled to hit the home island, but they dropped that atomic bomb, they surrendered. If they hadn't surrendered, I'd had and there's expecting 94% casualties going into the home islands of Japan. And that would have been about everybody.
Yeah.
But anyway, they decided to send us overseas from Fort Ord, Fort Ord, and they sent us to Richmond, California on the Army trucks, and they loaded us on the Ernie Powell ferry boat. It said Ernie Powell. Ernie Powell was a correspondent in the World War II, and he got killed over there. Somebody shot him. He'd take pictures, and videos and stuff of the war effort. I guess a sniper might have shot him. But anyway, they named that ferry boat. We went down to San Francisco, down the river from Richmond. It took about a half a day. And it was a large boat. And they named it the Ernie Powell ferry boat. And we went down to San Francisco Bay on that boat, and we got on a large transport.
Oh. Yeah.
Hello.
Hello, this is John. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm okay.
That's the way to deal with them. Well, I've been videoing this whole time, Papaw, so for the camera, will you state your name and your company?
And my name.
Yeah, just say, my name is, say your name and then your company, because I'm recording it on my phone, so.
Oh, well, my name is George Wesley Hampton. I didn't know you were recording it.
This is for me. This is just for me, because I hear...
George Wesley Hampton, and the company, I was in several different companies. And I was with the 186 Combat Engineers. in the Philippine Islands.
Yeah.
And they disbanded, and after we went to Japan, they disbanded in January of 1946. And then I was with, they sent me to Kobe, and I was with a company of the 1874th Aviation Engineers in
Wow.
Kobe, Japan. They disbanded. Then I went to Kyoto, and I was with a headquarters company, Engineers Headquarters Company in Kobe, Japan. In Kyoto, Japan. And that was the last company I was with. And I come to the United States, and I got discharged in November the 20, I think it's around the 22nd, almost on Barbara's birthday. And I got discharged in 1946 in Fort Sam Houston, Texas. And that was about it. And that was the last of my Army career. But I enjoyed it, though. Now I enjoyed it and seen a lot of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And seen a lot of things that I never would have seen if I hadn't went. But I dreaded that getting seasick.
I'm sure
and
you
I
did.
was on 3 different boats. One going over to the Philippines, and was on that boat 20-something days. And then one going up from the Philippines to Japan, 19 days. And then when I come back from Japan, from Yokohama, Japan, to San Francisco, I was on that boat 15 days.
Wow.
And I was on boat 3 different. I said, good night, am I in the Navy?
I'm sure you were sick the whole time, too.
Yeah, and I got sick every time. And I tried coming home. It was loaded with World War II soldiers is coming back home to the United States. The boat that I was on was the Winged Era, was the name of it. It was a new boat. It was one of the largest boats they had back then, transport. I guess it's about as large as they got now, too. It was a large boat. But anyway, I made it back, and I thank God that I did.
Me too. Thank you for your service.
Yeah, and I thank God that He was good to me. He was really good to me.
Mm-hmm.
And He gave me a lot of strength. You'd be amazed at the strength I had. There's a good, well, I don't want to record that, though.
I won't. Thank you, Papaw. I love you.
Oh, I love you, honey. But there's a guy